The lost language of angels. Let's talk about it. Enochian, the mysterious lost language of angels. Enochian is a mysterious language that 16th century occultist John Dee and Edward Kelly recorded in their private journals. They claimed this celestial speech allowed magicians and occultists to communicate with angelic realms. In the year 1581, occultist John Dee and Edward Kelly claimed to have received communication from angels who provided them with the foundation of a language with which to communicate with the other side. The angelic language contained its own alphabet, grammar, and syntax, which they wrote down in journals. The new language was called Enochian and comes from John Dee's assertion that the biblical patriarch Enoch has been the last human to know the language. Dr. John Dee, who was born in 1527 and died in 1609, was an occultist, mathematician, astronomer, and astrologer who lived in Mortlake, West London for most of his life. He was an educated man who studied at St. John's College in Cambridge, was eventually accepted into influential circles of the ruling elite, and acted as a scientific advisor and confidant to Queen Elizabeth I. He is associated with coining the phrase British Empire. During an early part of his life, Dee had little interest in the supernatural. Later on, he became disillusioned with science and began experimenting with magic and the occult. Dee was looking to discover lost spiritual knowledge and recover the wisdom that he believed was hidden in books of antiquity. So Enochian, the apparent language of the angels, according to John Dee. The term Enochian comes from the biblical figure Enoch, who was a source of hidden mystical knowledge and was taken up to heaven. According to Genesis 5:24, he walked with God, and Hebrews 11:5 states that he was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. From 1581 to 1585, Dee began performing a long series of magical events. In 1581, at the age of 54, Dee wrote in his personal journals that God has sent so-called good angels to communicate directly with mankind. By 1582, he was collaborating with fellow occultist and scryer Edward Kelly. And for those of you who don't know what a scryer is, here's a simple definition. A scryer is also known by various names such as seeing or peeping, is the practice of looking into a suitable medium in the hope of detecting significant messages or visions. So using some kind of medium like an occult object, maybe a book, maybe sigils, or a crystal ball to see some kind of message or visions from the spiritual realms. So he was collaborating with Edward Kelly to communicate with these angels. Hundreds of spirit conversations were recorded, including what they claimed was an angelic language called Enochian. Composed of non-English letters, the Enochian alphabet was revealed to Dr. John Dee and Edward Kelly during scrying sessions. When various texts and tables were received from angels, scrying is a technique used by seers, psychics, and sorcerers to foretell the future and involves gazing into a reflective surface to receive messages, like a crystal ball. Magical objects and celestial speech. It is documented that Dee and Kelly used objects such as the black obsidian mirror and a crystal ball to experience these visions. Dee acted as an orator directing prayers to God and the archangels for 15 minutes to an hour. Then a scrying stone was placed on a table and the angels were called to manifest themselves. Dee and Kelly would watch the stone and record everything they saw and heard. They were told by these angelic beings that magic would give superhuman powers to its practitioners, change the political structure of Europe, and also herald the coming of the apocalypse. John Dee fully believed that what he was doing would be of benefit to prosperity and documented the information into a series of manuscripts and workbooks. He never described the language used during the session as Enochian, but preferred to call it angelical, the celestial speech, the first language of God Christ. And another specific name he gave to this language was Adamical, because he asserted that it was used by Adam in the Garden of Eden to name all of God's creatures. And here's some of the actual objects that John Dee used to perform his witchcraft. Here's the obsidian black mirror that he used for these scrying sessions. I believe it's in the British Museum. And here is John Dee's so-called seal of God that he would use to manifest these angelic beings. The Enochian alphabet. There are two different versions of the Enochian alphabet, with one script slightly different from the other. The first version found in Dee's manuscript, the 5 Books of Mysteries, and the second and generally more accepted version is in the Liber Logaeth, the latter being Kelly's original drawings. The script is written from right to left and may include accents. The Enochian letters have English letters, equivalent with some of the letter names pronounced as they would be in English, but many are pronounced differently. The alphabet is used in the practice of Enochian magic on angelic or Enochian keys. They were received through Edward Kelly in 1584 in Poland. That year he wrote in his diaries a series of 19 magical incantations. The keys comprise of 48 poetic verses and correspond to various functions within the Enochian magic system. They are given in the original Enochian language and a modern English translation based on John Dee's Old English version. The Enochian letters are read from right to left. They have letter forms, letter names, and some English equivalents. They are as written from John Dee's diary. Some magicians have asserted that the Enochian language is the oldest language in the world, predating all human language. In some circles, it is considered the most powerful strain of magic. It is a method of contacting intelligence from other dimensions. Detractors have pointed out that the syntax of Enochian bears a strong resemblance to English, Dee and Kelly's natural language. Such similarities includes the word Luciftias, a term meaning brightness, which bears a connection to Lucifer, whose name means light bringer. Londo, the Enochian word for kingdom, might just represent Dee's connection to his royal patron, the Queen of England. Computer analysis have also shown Enochian to have a grammatical relationship to English. Text in the Liberal Gaia demonstrates phonetic features that do not appear in natural languages. The phonetic features are associated more with glossolalia, or speaking in tongues. The Enochian language was picked up and popularized by occultists such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley, Israel Regardie, and Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan. Many Satanists have included Enochian keys in their rituals, some adopting the entire language for use. The Enochian language was also studied by U.S. rocket scientist Jack Parson of the OTO. In 1994, the Enochian letters were used as hieroglyphs to operate the Archangel in the film Stargate, 1 year before the used remote viewing program Stargate was made public. So yeah, that was apparently the lost language of angels according to John Dee, who was an occultist and believed that through his rituals that he was doing, he was contacted by angelic beings that he claimed was from God. And these angelic beings gave John Dee the Enochian language to perform rituals with to have better communion with these so-called angelic beings. But my personal view, I believe he was communicating with fallen angels. Now, since we're on the topic of language, I want to talk about a very interesting idea. If the devil was going to unite the world once more, just like he did at the Tower of Babel, with a single language, I believe that language would be English. Because number one, it is one of the most spoken languages in the world today. Number two, our language is very death-centric, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Many of the words that we use every day, including the sentences and the slangs that we use, is very death-centric. So there are a lot of hidden spells in the English language that we use today. I mean, the word spell means to write or name the letters that form a word in a correct sequence. And then we have the word spell or spells, which means a form of words used as a magical charm or incantation. Like, did you know the word grammar actually comes from the French word grimoire, which is a spell book, a manual of magic, from Old French grammaire, meaning learning, which also gives us both glamour, a spell or enchantment, and grammar. So it's interesting that the word grammar comes from the word grimoire, which is a spell book. So if you look at the etymology of a lot of words that we use today, it is very death-centric. It is centered on the concept of death. And for those of you who don't know what etymology means, it's the study of words, their origin, and how their form and meaning have changed over time, such as the example I gave with grammar and grimoire. So a lot of the words that we use in the English language are often associated with death and also witchcraft. For example, let's talk about TV. What are TVs? It's called a television or tele-vision. And what are TVs used for? It's used to broadcast information. Broadcast, casting abroad, cast their spells. In what medium do they use? And how do they do that? They channel. And to channel something is to tune into a certain frequency. And to make the channeling easier, they created the remote for the TV. In the English language, words can be viewed forwards, backwards, phonetically, etymologically, and numerology. And you can use language to empower yourself or disempower. And let me share an example to show you just how death-centric our language can be with a sentence that applies to most people living in the West. And here's the sentence. I wake in the morning to go to my 9-to-5 job on a Monday to earn a living. I'm going to read that one more time. I wake in the morning to go to my 9-to-5 job on a Monday to earn a living. Sounds like a very basic sentence, right? A wake is a social gathering associated with death held before a funeral. Traditionally, a wake involves family and friends keeping watch over the body of a dead person, usually in the home of the deceased. So a wake is a party for the dead. And then what do we do when we wake up? I wake in the morning. What does morning mean? Morning is what you do at a wake, at a funeral. And what does morning mean? the expression of deep sorrow for someone who has died, typically involving following certain conventions such as wearing black clothes. So mourning is something you do at a wake, a funeral. So I wake in the morning to go to my 9-to-5 job on a Monday. Now, what's so significant about 9 to 5 on a Monday? Well, did you guys know that more people die on Monday at 9 a.m. than any other time, around the hours of 9 to 5 on a Monday, more than any other day and any other time? This is when more people die. And why do people die on this day of the week and this time? Nobody knows. But it's the time people start work. So I wake in the morning to go to my 9 to 5 job on a Monday. Well, what does job mean in Hebrew? Job in Hebrew means persecuted, innocent suffering. And so we read the sentence, I wake in the morning to go to my 9 to 5 job on a Monday to do what? To earn a living. Well, what is an urn? An urn is a vase for holding the ashes of the cremated dead. So this sentence that seems pretty simple and applies to all of us is very death-centric. I wake in the morning to go to my 9 to 5 job on a Monday to earn a living. And besides that, just think about some of the slang that we say day to day, especially my generation and the younger generation. When somebody says something funny, how do friends reply to each other? Bro, that joke was so funny, you got me dead. Bro, that joke is hilarious, I'm dying. That was incredibly funny, I'm so weak. Or what do we say when we're upset with something or somebody? I'm sick and tired of you, man. I'm sick and tired of this job. Sick and tired, I'm dead, I'm dying. I'm tired, I'm weak. We use a lot of death-centric language as if it's normal. What's another slang that we use that was pretty popular in the last few years? When we really like somebody or we think somebody's really cool, we call them what? The GOAT, right? Which is an acronym for the greatest of all time. Well, in the Bible, being called the GOAT is not a very positive thing. In fact, it talks about the end times and that when all nations will be gathered before him, he will separate them one from another as a shepherd divides the sheep from the goats. He said he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. These words picture the final judgment. So we use this slang not knowing exactly where it came from, but everyone started saying it. You're the GOAT. Bro, that's so funny, you got me dead. And again, as I've stated, you can either use language to empower you or disempower you. And when people say that, oh, language doesn't really affect you on a physical, spiritual level, it does. And even the Bible says that it does. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. For example, in Proverbs 18:21, it says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. And then in Proverbs again, in Proverbs 21:23, it says, whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. So that's why people should really be careful about what they say about others, what they say about themselves, because I do believe that these are like curses. Even science can tell you that saying negative things about yourself is not good for your health. For example, negative self-talk can lead to chronic stress, which leads to sicknesses. So what the Bible is saying is scientifically valid. There was a guy back in the 90s, his name was Masaru Emoto, and he was a Japanese businessman, author, and a scientist who claimed that human consciousness could affect the molecular structure of water. What he would do is he would do these experiments where he would play different phrases and different kind of music to water, and then he would freeze it and look at it under a microscope. Now the water that was said positive words, such as thank you, wisdom, truth, eternal, angel, I love you, peace, it formed beautiful geometric snowflakes. Now the water that was told awful things and played negative music, like heavy metal, when he would freeze that water and look at it under a microscope, it wouldn't show any patterns whatsoever. It'd be very ugly. There'd be no shape or form to it. So yeah, guys, I hope you found that very interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for your support, for watching, sharing, liking, and commenting your thoughts. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to support this channel, I do have a Patreon. Link is in bio. Again, thank you so much. If you have any questions, personal questions you want to ask me, I do have an email in my bio, so feel free. And once again, blessings to all of you guys. Thank you so much, and we are out.